2 straight races on road courses, it's back to business as usual as the series returns to the ovals. The first of 2 races were shown today being at the Langhorne Speedway in Pennsylvania. The circular 1-mile track, which hosted an Elite Series and a truck race last season, this year, however, will be hosting just the Super Series. So let us get started. Gio Arias wins the Carl's P1 award, his first of the season, I believe. John Alexander starting on his outside, points leader Andy Pearson starting in third. As they take the green flag, Arias gets a decent jump. He's actually going to pull ahead of Alexander as they go. Well, this track really doesn't have any turns. It's all one big turn. But Pearson making a big move, passes Alexander for second, and tries to make a move on Arias for the lead. Arias is going to lead the first lap, and he's going to get a run coming to the start-finish line and is going to keep the lead. Pearson is going to continue to battle Alexander for second. Trouble's going to strike early when Henry Santos is going to get into the back of Angel Gray and is going to turn her into Aubrey Wood, and both of them go into the wall, and Gray keeps spinning down the front stretch, if you can, we'll call it a front stretch because there's really no straights on this track whatsoever. By the start-finish line, let's say that. But luckily no one else hits Gray, and she'll keep going, so will Wood. There would be more to this accident after Santos turns Gray. He is going to be forced into a 3-wide situation, and then Rick Lewis is going to clip Santos and spin him around and into the wall, possibly with help from Frank Azaretto, but Santos will keep going with minimal damage. Or at least he would have, if it wasn't for the fact that coming to catch up to the rest of the field, he's going to run right into the back of Scott Wheeler, who was back in the 62 this week, and take himself out. And the situation was made worse due to a stack up from about midfield back, and the fact that James West and Robert Prescott decided to just run right into the back of the field. So the initial wreck, which took out no cars, this silly incident under caution is going to take out 4, which would be Santos, Wheeler, Prescott, and West. Arias would lead on the restart. Alexander hangs on to second, Pearson in third, Lawrence Burr in fourth, and Justin Slade fifth to round out the top 5. And Arias once again gets a nice restart there, and Pearson goes under Alexander for the second spot and is now going under Arias for the lead, taking Justin Slade with them, and he's going to take the lead pretty easily. Slade going to move into second. Arias now about to lose fourth to Alexander. Slade now trying to go under Pearson, but it's not going to matter. Pearson's going to lead the lap, and Pearson's going to pull ahead of Slade as they're going 3 wide behind Slade for third. Luther Rawson is going to pick up a puncture and is going to bring that car to the inside of the track. You see him slow down tremendously, and he's going to bring that car back to pit road. He'll lose 2 laps in doing so. Back up front, the top 4 have pulled away from the rest of the field. As you notice, pole setter Gio Arias is no longer in this pack. Race is still being led by Andy Pearson. Lawrence Burr has found his way to second. John Alexander passing Justin Slade for third, and looks like he's going to do that. He's going to try to get a run on Lawrence Burr. However, this battle would be interrupted as Burr tries to go for the lead, but they're going to run into the lap car of Keegan Mallory, who was involved in the lap 5 accident. Let me rephrase that. He was involved in the silly incident that occurred under caution after the lap 5 accident. But anyway, Pierce is going to retain the lead because Burr's going to get held up slightly by Mallory, but he's going to get around him without too much difficulty, and it's going to even keep second. As a matter of fact, he'll even have another shot at Pearson for the lead as he tries to take it on the outside. There really isn't any preferred line on this track, and it looks like he's going to do it. Burr now leads this race. This is something Burr definitely needs since he's had kind of a rough time since winning at Carbondale. Here is the second group of cars, which is behind the lead 4, which is currently being led by Billy Ray Smith-Thompson. Great run for Smith-Thompson, who's having an excellent top 5 run so far. He also had a nice run at Memphis earlier in the season, which he actually led a few laps. However, that is the only good thing that has happened to him this season, as he's failed to finish every other race. Back up front, Lawrence Burr still in the lead, but for how long, as Andy Pearson tries to take the lead back from him. These two have actually pulled away from Alexander and Slade, but they're going to catch the lap car of Luther Rawson, who's about to be put a third lap down, and Pearson's going to use Austin as a pick to take the lead back from Burr, and Burr's actually going to have a little bit of trouble getting around Austin. This is going to allow Pearson to open up his lead. However, behind him, John Alexander is going to get into the back of Justin Slade, and it's going to send both of them into the wall, collecting Luther Austin. Alexander rolls up on his roof and slides down the track upside down, and here comes the rest of the field as luckily no one strikes him while he's in this position, but that's going to take Slade, Alexander, and Austin out of the race. Alexander was the only one entering this race to have finished every race. That will no longer be the case today. But anyway, everybody would come into pit road under the caution, and Pearson will lead them down. However, he will not lead them off. That honor would belong to Billy Ray Smith-Thompson, who had an amazing pit stop to set him from 5th all the way to the lead. Gio Arias would come back out in 2nd. Pearson and Burr would actually lose a number of spots on pit road. The rest of the top 5 include Patrick Johansson, the 2nd Ike Durbin car, in 3rd, Sarah Carlisle in 4th, and Mike Malone in 5th, who is having one of his better runs of the season. Actually, I think it is his best run of the season. Keegan Mallory, the only car 1 lap down. He's way off the pace. The leader's going to get around him easily, and Arias trying to go for the lead under Smith-Thompson. Johansson trying to go with his teammate, but Arias is going to look like he's going to take the lead back. He inches ahead of Smith-Thompson and does it. Leads the lap as well. Paul-Setter Arias is back on point. Mallory is so slow that he's causing a stack up of cars behind him. Kelly Splice is going to get into the back of him, turn him into Angel Gray, and send all 3 of them into the wall. All 3 cars would continue. Gio Arias would lead on this restart as we're just a few laps shy of halfway. Mallory's still a lap down and is going to be just as slow as he was on the last restart. Arias and Smith-Thompson and the rest of the leaders are going to quickly get around him, and Arias going to get a nice restart and stay ahead of Smith-Thompson. Mike Malone takes the 3rd spot from Johansson. This is what happens when you're 20 miles per hour off the pace and don't know how to be a courteous back marker. You hold up the field for another restart and you cause another wreck. This time, Kenny Brillin's going to get into the back of Mallory and send him into the wall. Then Angel Gray comes in at full speed and then clobbers Mallory. Thankfully for everybody, that takes Mallory out of the race. However, at the cost of Gray's race. Now, this happened once the field took the caution while they were trying to catch up to the pace car. Rick Lewis and Tommy Ashby are going to get into a little scuffle, and then Lewis is going to turn Ashby into the grass. Don't know what that was all about. These incidents under caution are becoming real old real fast. Gio Arias will continue to lead on the restart. Billy Ray Smith-Thompson still in 2nd, and Arias will hold off Smith-Thompson on the restart. We'd actually get a few laps of green in until the next caution happened, and that would happen when Lawrence Burr, who never recovered from that bad pit stop, is going to get into the back of Kiefer Glanville and send both of them and 4 other cars into the wall. Frank Azaretto, the most notable hit as he goes hard, actually gets off the ground a bit.
Ow, that kind of hurt.
Azaretto's comments say it all, as I'm sure he probably felt that one, but he is able to drive it back behind the wall. Only him and Lewis would retire from the race from this accident. Under the caution, the engine on the 36 of Kelly Splicen, who was involved in the lap 40 caution, is going to go up in smoke. Funny how this is the only engine failure of the race, because I remember in the truck race last year they were over 10. Once again, Gio Arias leads on the restart. Top 5 is pretty much the same, with the exception of Andy Pearson, who has worked his way back up to 4th after a slow pit stop. Arias is going to get another good restart, but behind him, a battle for 2nd would be brewing between Sarah Carlisle and Bailey Ray Smith-Thompson, and also a battle for 4th between Patrick Johansson and Pearson. Smith-Thompson's going to hold off Carlisle, but Pearson can't seem to hold off Johansson just yet. And while Arias is pulling away from the rest of the field, Pearson still trying to hold off Johansson, but as they come to the start-finish line, Pearson is going to get a run and is going to retain the 4th position. But not only that, he's now going to go under Sarah Carlisle for 3rd. But Carlisle's going to hold off Pearson and take the 2nd spot from Smith-Thompson, and that's going to allow Pearson to get under Smith-Thompson for the 3rd spot. And as Carlisle, Smith-Thompson, and Pearson pull away from the field now, Alex Witt and the Cat Motorsports 94 is currently in the 5th position, having an amazing run so far. His season has pretty much been a mixed bag so far. He does have 2 top 10s this season. However, he's been mostly known for causing incidents under caution on multiple occasions. Matter of fact, this is the first time since Toledo where he hasn't had to start in the back of the field. But anyway, he's holding off Patrick Johansson, and a bunch of other cars we don't normally see up front very often. And believe it or not, Carlisle, Smith-Thompson, and Pearson are actually reeling in Gio Arias. Smith-Thompson currently holds the second spot. Pearson tries to go under him 3 wide, coming to the start-finish line, and now Smith-Thompson's on the bumper of Arias. They're right there now. Carlisle's going to slide back to 4th. Carlisle, I could see contending like this, being that team has won a truck championship and won 3 truck races last season. But Smith-Thompson has pretty much been nowhere all season because he's been pretty much wrecking all season. But Arias and Pearson have been without a doubt the 2 strongest cars this season. And it's nice to see Smith-Thompson contended for the win like this, especially considering what happened to him last season. But back to that second group now. Johansson and Witt now have company in Charles Gilbert and Mike Malone. Gilbert having another great run, finished 6th last week in Duluth, which was his first top 10 this season. We've already talked about the struggles that 10 team has gone through this season after winning the East Championship and Regional Cup last year, and it looks like they're starting to turn their season around. Now that things have calmed down up front, Arias and Pearson have pulled away from Carlisle and Smith-Thompson. You see Smith-Thompson in the 3rd spot. But as I was saying before, Pearson and Arias have been the 2 strongest teams all season. Arias leads the series in top 5s with 4, although he doesn't have a win, while Pearson leads the series in wins and top 10s. We're going to have a close moment here as Stanley Parsons is going to get into the back of Mike Malone just to let him know that he's there. And I don't know if you saw, Osvaldo Ramirez, the Duluth winner, after getting involved in the very last caution, is now worked his way into the top 10. Also see Kenny Brillin in the top 10. He's having probably his best run of the season. But then Ramirez is going to catch up to the main group here, battling for 5th. It's great to see that whatever little damage he did get in that accident is not affecting him, as he's now passing the cars that are slower than him, that have been in the top 10 for pretty much most of the race. But anyway, Johansson now holds the 5th spot. Matt Pearson also in this pack now. We're now in the race's closing stages, and Andy Pearson and Gio Arias have a huge gap over everybody else. Smith-Thompson's nowhere to be seen. The winner is going to be either these 2 cars. Pearson can't seem to make a move on Arias. Pearson, who already has 2 wins this season, Arias doesn't have any. However, he does have 4 third-place finishes. However, they're going to run into the damaged car of Tommy Ashby. Let's see how this is going to affect the outcome of this race. And Ashby is going to hold both Arias and Pearson up as they're coming to the start-finish line. We're now within 10 laps to go. Let's see what either of them do. Arias moves to the outside, and Pearson's still stuck behind him. Let's see if he tries to make a move on the inside. No, he doesn't. Arias is going to pass Ashby on the outside, and I think that may have just won Arias this race. Or at least it would have, until Charles Gilbert gets into the back of Patrick Johansson, and it's going to cause him to slide into the wall with 2 laps to go. Nobody else hits Johansson, and he's going to drive away. This would mean that for the second time this season, we will go to a green-white checker to decide the outcome of this race. Arias will lead everybody to the end of regulation. Pearson in 2nd, Smith-Thompson 3rd, Carlisle 4th, Gilbert in 5th. All cars that were running at the end of regulation, 22 of them, will start the GWC, and all will be back on the lead lap. However, Ashby was the only car that was a lap down. So the field gets set to take the green flag of the green-white checkered. Arias will lead him down. He gets a huge jump on the start. The outside line didn't really get going at all. Smith-Thompson now looking to take the 2nd spot from Pearson. He's also right behind Arias. Could Smith-Thompson possibly win this race? And we see some contact back there between Gilbert and Witt. And Arias still holding off Smith-Thompson. But here comes the outside line again. Pearson gets a huge run, coming to the start-finish line to take the white flag. This will be the only attempt we get. Pearson now on the back bumper of Arias. Carlisle also now taking the 3rd spot from Smith-Thompson. And you see Pearson now starting to make the move on Arias as we're now at the back half of the track. Top 3 has started to pull away from the rest of the field. Neither driver giving an inch for Arias getting the push from Carlisle. It's going to be a final finish as they come to the line. And it's going to be Arias that beats Pearson for the win. Arias manages to beat the 4-time Elite Series champion by 2/100ths of a second. And after 4 third-place finishes, Gio Arias will finally take his first Super Series win here at Langhorne. Pearson, who barely missed out on his 3rd win, continues his near-perfect season. He has only finished outside the top 10 once this year, and that was when he wrecked out on lap 1 at Texas World. Sarah Carlisle finishes third. That's her second consecutive top 5 finish. That's the kind of run we expect from this team, considering what they've done in the lower tiers. Matt Pearson, who started 6th on the green-white checkered, barely edges out Billy Ray Smith-Thompson for 4th. That's also his second consecutive top 5 finish. Smith-Thompson will have to settle for 5th, however, I'm sure he'll be fine with that. That is his best finish of the year, and his first top 10 finish since Memphis. Charles Gilbert gets another 6th place finish. I said it earlier, but it looks like they're starting to turn things around. Alex Witt finishes in 7th, his third top 10 this season. Duluth winner Osvaldo Ramirez, despite being involved in an earlier accident, finishes in 8th. Stanley Parsons finishes in 9th, his first top 10 finish since winning Texas World. He also gets the hard charger bonus. And rounding out the top 10 is Kenny Brillen, who gets his first top 10 of the season. Now let's take a quick look at the point standings after this race. Gio Arias, who earned maximum points, now only sits 20 points behind Andy Pearson. Arias gained 40 points on Pearson and moves up into second in points. After Pearson's closest competition, John Alexander, wrecked out of this race. Alexander, after getting his first DNF of the season, drops to 4th and is now 82 points behind Pearson. He's actually tied with Sarah Carlisle for 4th. Justin Slade, who also wrecked out of this race, also takes a huge hit in the standings. He's now 114 points behind Pearson, which is more than a full race behind. So that was Langhorne for you. 2 weeks later, the Super Series made their next stop at the quarter-mile Rockford Speedway, the track which is best known, or was best known, for hosting the Elite Series finale Rockford 200 up until last season. The Rockford 200 was known as the Elite Series finale for many years. That is until 2001, when they lost the bid to the Daytona International Speedway. However, after the 2008 season, FARC realized that Daytona was too much of a crapshoot to end the season and ultimately decide the champion. So they went back to Rockford in 2009, where they stayed until 2013 after discussions with track promoters to keep the event broke down. All I know about the situation is a chair was involved. At least that's what the rumor is anyway. And the finale was given to the Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth. After not hosting any FARC races in 2014, Rockford is back on the FARC schedule for the Super Series at least, as we go 100 laps across this extremely short and very quick oval. In terms of distance, this is the shortest race on the calendar, so let us jump right into it. John Alexander will lead him to the start with Justin Slade in second. Langhorne winner Gio Arias starting in third. And you see the huge jump Alexander gets before they get into turn 1. Arias is going to get under Slade for the second spot, or try to, but Alexander is going to lead the first lap and pull out to a massive lead. It would only take 2 laps for the first caution to wave, and that is a result of a 3-wide situation that's going to send Henry Santos into the path of Bill Calhoun. Damage is minimal, however, and there's another incident ahead of this after cars scatter trying to avoid the first incident, and this is a result of James West turning Alex Witt into Tommy Ashby. Here comes Miranda Leckliner. Don't know what happened to her, but she rams the Jersey barriers. She is going to be the only one to retire from this race, from this accident. At tracks like this, space is very minimal, especially when cars are trying to scatter to avoid wrecks. Some smaller incidents may result after the initial, okay, Gio Arias, what was that about? But anyway, John Alexander would lead on the restart, being that we only had 1 green flag lap in. Justin Slade remains in second, Lawrenceburg now in third. And, being that Arias was the one that ran into Johnson collapsed, under that caution, he's no longer up front. Very quickly after the restart, 6 laps after the restart, in fact, they're going to put Robert Prescott a lap down. This is nothing out of the norm for Prescott, considering that it's only 6 laps after the restart on a track that's only a quarter-mile long. I'll let you be the judge of that. And as you see, Alexander have a decent lead over Justin Slade, who's still in second, Lawrenceburg still in third. And you probably saw in the shot, Gio Arias running in the back of this pack, the last car on the lead lap. And not too long after lapping Prescott, Alexander is then soon gonna lap Arias. Arias, who of course won at Langhorne, now a lap down early in this race. This does not bode well for Arias' championship efforts, as he's the only driver within striking distance of points leader Andy Pearson, who is running comfortably in the top 10 right now, in 7th to be exact. As you see, he has very little going on around him. As you see, Arias is actually right in front of him. He's probably loving this right now, that his closest competition is a lap down. However, Alexander and Slade, who are a ways back on Pearson, are 1-2. After nearly a 30-lap green flag run, it's all going to come to an end when Daniel Kelly's going to get into the back of the slow Robert Prescott, sends him into Roy Cook. Kelly then runs to the end of the pit wall. Kenny Billin runs to the back of him, and then a massive pile-up ensues, which also includes the leaders. Alexander escapes with minimal damage. Slade took a decent hit there. The track was essentially blocked, and there's very little anybody can do except for to pile right into it. 25 of the 33 cars running got involved in that in some way. 6 of those would retire from the race. Others would continue with massive damage. One of the 6 cars that would retire from the race would be points leader Andy Pearson, who, like I stated before, had no choice but to pile right into it. And that's going to cause some massive front-end damage on the 2 car, and that's going to be the end of his day. Unfortunately, when there's more wrecking in front of him. But unfortunately for him, Gio Arias, his competition in the championship, would keep going despite getting involved in that as well. Here's a list of the 25 cars involved in this accident. What I mean by that is that these cars listed were damaged in some way, some more than others. That includes leader of the race, John Alexander, and second place, Justin Slade. Slade got a bigger part of it than Alexander did. I think it's easier to make a list of who wasn't involved in the accident than who was, on the count that only 8 cars of the 33 running at the time were not involved at all and escaped unscathed. But anyway, the 6 cars that would retire from the race from this would be, as we talked about earlier, Pearson, Charles Gilbert, Kenny Brillin, Daniel Kelly, Lawrence Burr. God, this has been an awful couple of races for him. And Sarah Carlisle, who's coming off of 2 consecutive top 5 finishes entering today. Despite getting involved in the incident himself, Gio Arias continues on, which is a worst case scenario for Pearson. Now from that point on, the race kind of got a bit on the ridiculous side. And what I mean by that is that we did not have a green flag lap for the rest of the race, maybe with the exception of 2 instances. So instead of showing you footage of green flag racing that did not happen, we thought it'd be much easier just to make this whole thing into a one big crash compilation of the 10 cautions that followed this point. But instead of ending the commentary here and placing a overused rock song from 2006 over the footage, instead I will just commentate over it with some more appropriate music. Here is FARC at its finest. First off, before we even get a chance to restart, the field doesn't know how to line up properly. John Alexander still leads despite getting involved in the earlier pile-up. Justin Slade still in second, however, he has a lot more damage than Alexander does, and here is the restart, and everybody's not lined up properly. Cars are now a lap down when they shouldn't be, and Johnson Clapp trying to take back. Oh, someone's on the roof, and that is Alex Witt, who's going to push into Justin Slade and flip himself over, and more cars pile into it. Slade involved in another one. His race going downhill very quickly. Witt will drive it back to the pits, but he will retire from the race. This happened behind the initial accident. The cars are trying to get around Robert Prescott. Keegan Mallory hooks him, and it causes another pile-up. Luther Austin, Stanley Parsons, Billy Ray Smith Thompson among those involved. That was the pile-up that we saw behind. Oh, okay. And this is racing back to the caution, by the way. This happened before either of those accidents. Kiefer Glanville is going to exit pit road, not paying attention to where he's going, and runs into Mike Malone, who then gets hit by Osvaldo Ramirez, who had to have the front end ripped off of that car after the big pile-up. But all cars involved in that will keep going. The next caution will be Kiefer Glanville doing the exact same thing as before, right into Aubrey Wood, and that causes her to slide down the track, bringing out the caution. Number 5 will be Billy Ray Smith Thompson bouncing off the wall into Gio Arias, and he's going to go into, who thought that was going to work, causing 4-wide situation, and that takes another, we got another small pile up here. No major harm done, or at least no major harm that wasn't already done. After taking the one to go to the restart, Stanley Parsons thinks it's a good idea to turn Aubrey Wood into the wall. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about there. But once the restart did come out, Parsons is going to get run into by Luther Rawson, who's coming out of pit road. And then right in front of Gio Arias into the Jersey barriers, and then car's killed. It's amazing how karma works, doesn't it? Under that caution, Keeper Glanville's going to have another momentary lapse in judgment and stop right in the middle of the track.
Could you tell the 51 spotter tell his driver to get his head out of his ass? But then again, we shouldn't have been in there because we shouldn't be allowed down in the first place!
What he's talking about is the instance after the big pile-up where everybody could not get lined up properly on the restart. He was one of the cars that fell a lap down when they shouldn't have. But anyway, lucky number 7 is going to be Gio Arias getting tired of being behind Robert Prescott, and he's just going to turn him into the inside of the track. No harm, no foul. This one, however, not so much. Luther Rawson's going to once again pull out of pit road unaware of his surroundings, turn James West, and is going to cause a 4-wide situation. Gio Arias moves up in reaction and puts Keeper Glanville on the wall. Being on and off of pit road since the big pile-up, it was after this the 16 finally decided to just put him behind the wall. Under that caution, Keeper Glanville is going to do something else stupid, and that's running into the back of Angel Gray. I mean, seriously, what, did Glanville leave his brain at home this weekend? And then he's just going to stop in the middle of the track again. Also under that caution, Henry Santos attempts to pull into pit road, but takes Matt Pearson with him, and then he clips the end of the pit wall. That's going to take Santos out of the race, but then Pearson forgets what pit road speed is, and is going to run right into the wall at the exit of pit road, taking himself out. So here we are now, 3/4 of the way through the race, and we have not had a single green flag lap since lap 36. All that while John Alexander has led every single lap from the start, because there hasn't been a green flag lap where anybody has a shot to pass him, and also that most of his competition, or anybody that could keep up with him, has either wrecked out or has had a bunch of problems all night as he gets around the lap cars pretty easily. Alexander has been one of the front runners all season, however has not found victory lane yet, and oh my god, we completed a green flag lap! Oh god, the world is ending. While Armageddon may not be upon us, it was a sign that something was going to happen, and that is John Alexander's engine grenading on him from the lead.
75 is just pulling up, you're now back on the lead lap. Repeat, back on the lead lap. Back on the backstretch, caution is out.
And that was Frank Azaretto's spotter giving his driver the message as the caution came out for Robert Prescott again, who bounces off the wall and spins himself out. Nothing new here. But Alexander blowing up is going to give the lead to Kelly Splicin, who was running ways ahead of the next car behind her, and from that piece of audio you just heard a minute ago, it also puts Frank Azaretto and Scott Wheeler back on the lead lap. In fact, I think Wheeler's running 10th. However, after getting at least one green flag lap in, it's back to business as usual, and it's Robert Prescott again, and Scott Wheeler, who just got back on the lead lap, hits him afterwards. He's resilient, I'll give him that. Here's number 11, and this happened immediately after taking the green. Angel Gray's going to run to the back of James West. He nearly misses the Jersey barriers, and yeah, I think we all knew how that was going to end. That involves Gio Arias, Johnson Clapas, Valdo Ramirez, and Riley Durbin. In fact, I think Clapp and Ramirez were running 3rd and 4th at the time. This restart would come out with 10 laps to go, which means single file from here on out. The 3 cars starting behind Splicin are a lap down, which means even if we do go the rest of the way green, which we probably won't, it'll probably be smooth sailing for Splicin, as there is literally nobody that could probably compete with her right now, or is even as fast, because everybody else said, oh no, I just saw Keeper Glanville coming out of the pits. And as predicted, he runs into Roy Cook, spins himself out, and Aubrey Wood has nowhere to go and runs right into the back of him, and that's going to kill her car. I mean, I'm just at a loss for words about the level of stupidity that Glanville has displayed in this race. And that would be the 12th and final caution of the race. The restart would come out with 4 laps to go, meaning if we go the rest of the way, which I kind of doubt at this point, it'll be the longest green flag run we've had since the beginning of the race. Kelly Splicin still leads. She has 3 lap cars in between her and second place, which, get this, is Rick Lewis, who, unlike his teammate Glanville, has kept it clean for the most part. Well, no one's kept it clean this race, it's just that, you get what I'm saying. And speaking of which, Glanville strikes again before the race ends, and he's gonna put Frank Azaretto on the wall.
Why is that retard still on track? How many laps down is he?
For those of you watching that are easily offended, we cannot control what Frank Casaretto or any other driver says over the radio, so please don't sue us. And Frank, to answer your question, he's 16 laps down. And if you also want to know why he hasn't been parked yet, it's because it's FARC. Kelly Splicen is about to take the white flag. Splicen took over this car for the injured Tristan Bain. She has done an amazing job in substituting, and with no competition in sight, Kelly Splicen is going to take her first Super Series win here at the Wreckfest at Rockford. Splicen went the final 27 laps unopposed, mostly due to the lack of green flag laps, and also because every other car that could have and would have beaten her all had problems in this race. But I don't think anybody would be complaining, considering how that team started this season. This is definitely a feel-good win for that 36 team, despite the fashion in which they wanted, which is pretty much just surviving. Now, due to what I mentioned before, the top 10 is kind of wacky. Then again, this is a FARC race, so when is it not? And also, a number of cars that finished in the top 10 had a considerable amount of damage, and some of them have been involved in numerous accidents throughout the night. For instance, Rick Lewis gets his best ever finish in second. He was involved in the massive pile-up on lap 37. At least he wasn't running into everything on the track like his teammate was. Mike Malone in third gets his best finish of the season. Him along with Splicen were one of the few cars not to get any sort of damage from the big pile-up. This is, I believe, his first top 5 this season. Both of the Peak Williamson Race Tech cars finished 4th and 5th respectively. Johnson Clapp finishes in 4th. His first top 5 and top 10 since Memphis, and he also gets the hard charger bonus. And Scott Wheeler, who remember only a few weeks ago made a complete fool of himself at Mosport, rounds out the top 5. Also coming back from a lap down earlier in the race. Osvaldo Ramirez finishes in 6th with no front end on that car. He was involved in the big pileup. Billy Ray Smith Thompson gets another top 10 finish in 7th. Frank Casaretto gets his 3rd top 10 of the year in 8th. Last car on the lead lap also. Tommy Ashby is the first car lap down in 9th. That's his 4th top 10 this season. And Bill Calhoun gets his best finish of the year, I believe, in 10th. And now here are the point standings as we are now halfway through the 2015 season. We have a new points leader. Gio Arias, the winner at Langhorne, now leads Andy Pearson by 18 points. Both drivers were involved in the massive pile-up on lap 37. Arias was able to continue and finish the race. He did so in 11th, in fact, while Pearson was taken out. Only the second time this season Pearson has failed to finish outside the top 10. Both of those were from DNFs. And also, Osvaldo Ramirez is slowly but surely climbing the standings. He's now in 3rd, 54 points behind Arias. He's had an amazing string of races ever since Mosport. Because if I remember correctly, he didn't start off very well. He didn't get a really strong start this season. Well, that is no longer the case now, as he's emerging now as a title threat. After another DNF, John Alexander now sits 62 points behind Arias. The reason he actually gained ground was because Pearson, who was the points leader entering this race, wrecked out early. So despite his recent run of bad luck, Alexander still in the fight. Lawrence Burr continues to lose ground in the championship. He's now 94 points behind in 5th. We then have a tie for 6th in points, which is between Sarah Carlisle and Johnson Clapp, who gains a lot of ground. They're 102 points behind Arias. Justin Slade, despite actually finishing the race, is still over 100 points out of the lead. He's had a lot of bad luck when he's not running well, and that's why he's so far back in the standings. Matt Pearson drops a spot to 9th. Everybody from this point on back is more than a race out. And despite not racing at Texas World, Kelly Splicen, with the win, moves up into the top 10 in points with one less start. She's 124 points behind Gio Arias. She's actually tied with Kiefer Glanville for that spot, but Splicen has a win. So that was an eventful race, to say the least. We are now halfway done with the 2015 FARC Duckroll Super Series season, and we now go from our shortest race in terms of distance to the longest, as the Super Series heads to Indiana for 150 laps around the Indianapolis Raceway Park to kick off the second half of the 2015 season.